What if I told you Japan just flipped the script on Washington's boldest economic move and did it without firing a single political shot? In a world of tariffs, tensions, and trade wars, one story is turning heads across the global auto industry. The United States tried to bring car manufacturing home by slapping heavy tariffs on foreign-made vehicles. But there was a catch. Those foreign cars weren't coming from rivals, but from trusted allies like Japan. What followed was not a war of words, but a masterclass in quiet retaliation. Japan didn't fight back on Capitol Hill. It fought back from factory floors and R&D labs. Today, we dive into how Tokyo responded to Washington's economic shockwave with precision, patience, and power. When the U.S. reimposed aggressive tariffs on cars built in Mexico and Canada, it might have seemed like just another policy shift. But under the surface, the real impact was far more complex. Many of these vehicles, branded and engineered by Toyota, Honda, Nissan, and Mazda, are as Japanese as sushi and deeply embedded in American garages. For decades, Japanese automakers have built cars in North America, not to dodge trade laws, but to get closer to their customers. Toyota's assembly lines in Mexico, Honda's operations in Ontario. These plants weren't loopholes. They were lifelines in a tightly woven global auto supply chain. But the new tariffs, heavily influenced by renewed protectionist rhetoric from the Trump campaign, shook that foundation. Overnight, production schedules were thrown into chaos. Toyota and Honda saw their stocks wobble. Suppliers like Isuzu and Denso scrambled to understand the new terrain. Emergency meetings unfolded in Tokyo. But if Washington expected panic, Japan delivered poise. Instead of launching verbal assaults, Japanese firms adjusted course. Fast. Toyota greenlit a new hybrid engine line for global exports straight from Japan. Honda scaled down Mexican output and doubled down on Thailand. Nissan accelerated its rollout of compact electric vehicles, specifically aimed at American middle-class buyers. These weren't last-minute reactions. They were contingency plans years in the making. Since 2018, Japan has been preparing for protectionist policies, diversified supply chains, rising investments in domestic automation, and strategic alliances across Southeast Asia laid the groundwork for resilience. While U.S. officials hoped to pressure Japanese firms into shifting production stateside, the opposite happened. Tokyo doubled down on independence. The Japanese government watched closely but quietly. Behind the scenes, Japan's Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry conducted private sessions with automakers to map countermeasures. No threats, no bluster, just data, discipline, and direction. Washington's move wasn't just about trade. It crossed a line from economics into trust. Japanese firms like Nissan publicly warned of rising consumer costs. Honda subtly called out the damage to decades of partnership and innovation. But beyond statements, the real response was mechanical and methodical. Factories shifted, engineers refocused. R&D budgets ballooned. Southeast Asian plants saw a surge in hiring and investment, becoming key nodes in a new auto economy. As Mexican factories cut output, Vietnam and Indonesia picked up the slack. And while U.S. dealerships faced rising prices and delayed deliveries on Japanese models, American-made vehicles failed to seize the moment. Buyers stuck with Japan's legendary reliability and value, despite the tariffs. Ironically, by targeting Japan, Washington hurt its own backyard. From suppliers in Michigan to dealerships in California, the ripple effects were real. Some U.S. EV advocates even worried the policy could delay green transitions, as Japanese automakers were leaders in hybrid and battery tech. In response, Japan didn't retaliate with fire, but with focus. Toyota emphasized hybrid production in Japan and Thailand. Nissan fast-tracked electric cars tailored to U.S. consumers. Honda accelerated its next-gen battery programs, leaning on partners outside the U.S. to weather the storm. Trade data told the tale. Exports from Mexico and Canada dropped. Shipments from Japan and Southeast Asia soared. Japan's Ministry of Finance even diversified foreign reserves, sending a subtle signal that trust in U.S. financial leadership was waning. Diplomatically, Japan began forging deeper and more strategic alliances with the European Union and key Southeast Asian nations, recognizing that the shifting global order required a broader, more diversified network of partnerships. At the heart of this diplomatic push was a shared commitment to environmental sustainability and technological innovation, particularly in the automotive and energy sectors. The EU, with its ambitious climate goals and strict carbon emission regulations, provided a natural partner for Japan's evolving electric vehicle EV strategy. By aligning its manufacturing and R&D efforts with European standards, Japan not only ensured access to a large and environmentally conscious consumer base, but also positioned itself as a reliable and forward-thinking ally in the race toward net zero emissions. Japan's outreach wasn't limited to traditional Western allies. In Southeast Asia, where rapid urbanization and rising middle classes were creating new demand for affordable, efficient transportation, Japan found eager partners. Countries like Thailand, Vietnam, and Indonesia welcomed Japanese investment and technology, seeing it as an opportunity to leapfrog into the future of sustainable mobility. Japan, in turn, capitalized on favorable trade terms, lower production costs, and a skilled labor force. Collaborative projects and joint ventures blossomed. Automotive plants were upgraded to handle hybrid and electric vehicle assembly, while training programs were launched to build local expertise in battery technology and EV maintenance. But diplomacy was just one piece of the puzzle. Economically, Japan leaned into its historical strengths: precision, long-term planning, and relentless innovation. While some nations reacted to trade disputes with tariffs and retaliatory measures, Japan adopted a subtler, more strategic approach. Instead of matching Washington's protectionism with public outrage, it doubled down on technological leadership and global market integration. Tokyo knew that the true battlefield was not in political posturing, but in innovation labs, supply chain optimization, and product performance. Japanese automakers swiftly retooled their production and supply chains. Companies like Toyota, Nissan, and Honda expanded their footprint in countries with stable trade relations and aligned environmental policies. New EV and hybrid models were fast-tracked through development pipelines, optimized for regions with high regulatory standards and growing demand. Toyota's progress in solid-state battery research, a game-changer for EV range and safety, was accelerated, not only for domestic use, but for global export. Nissan focused on affordable electric compacts, ideal for both Southeast Asian and European city streets. Honda, meanwhile, expanded battery partnerships outside the United States, lessening its vulnerability to American trade shifts. In the end, Japan didn't need a trade war to win the battle. While Washington tried to reignite American industry with tariffs, Tokyo responded with strategy: no shouting matches, no threats, just smarter engineering, quicker pivots, and long-term vision. And as Japan's global auto presence grows even stronger, the real question is, did Washington just give away the steering wheel in the race for the future? If you found this breakdown insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more deep dives into the geopolitical moves shaping our world. Until next time, drive smart, think global,